This is Neat and Mixed from Hops and Spirits.
You know, last time I tried to start one of these, I messed up, and I just did it again. I couldn't even say start. So, you know, we're in for another treat as we have another flight night for you. And this time, we're not doing just 2 pours or 3 or 4 like we usually do. We're doing 6 different expressions from Jones Distillery out in western Kentucky. And Brandon, should we welcome our guest in?
Absolutely.
Let's welcome in Cody Turner. He's the partner and COO of Jones Distillery, and he's going to be drinking with us tonight. Cody, welcome in.
Oh man, it's so good. It's like an absolute honor to be here, you guys. I really appreciate it. I tell everybody time I go on to one of these spaces like this and get a chance to work with folks who are on this side of the industry that you just do not know how much work goes into making something like this happen, and what it takes to grow a channel, and what it takes to get followers and build trust and build that community. And I see you guys. It's a hustle. It really is. It's a lot of work, and appreciate it. And thank you for spending your time with me. It means the world to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, and we're excited to maybe, you know, we get to try everything you guys got to offer, and hopefully we can build a relationship moving forward.
Fantastic.
I know, because you were doing a little teasing about the different things you have that we don't have, but we'll talk about that later. So let's get into that first pour. So Brandon and I kind of split up the bottle. So I got the first bottle. We're going to start off with the Total Eclipse Moonshine. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so there's just so much to talk about here. I mean, obviously, we can get into the story, we can get into the economics, we can get into why moonshine, we can get into the mash bill. I think I'll start with, though, you know, I think you're going to be shocked when you try this. Moonshine is not necessarily a 4-letter word. It actually can be really quite good if it's well done. And I think this is what we've got here. So this is, again, our Total Eclipse Moonshine. That distillate is half corn, yellow dent corn, and half cane sugar. This is a 100-year-old Prohibition-era moonshine recipe. Actually, the same recipe that Casey Jones, the distillery's namesake, made back during Prohibition. Now, I won't speak for you guys, but I will say most of the time when people smell this, they are astonished by how much this smells exactly like a high-end Blanco tequila.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because if you'd blind me with this, I wouldn't say moonshine right off the bat.
Right?
No, not even. And it actually, I mean, it smells, like you said, it smells like a high-end tequila, but also you get a little bit of that sweetness from the corn and sugar, and it does have that sweet smell.
Kentucky agave, man, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Well, I love the combo of it, because on the taste as well, like, you know, most moonshines that you think of, the traditional ones that you're thinking in your head when you hear moonshine, you're like, oh man, that's got to be pure burn, but, you know, it'll get the job done at the end of the night. This is, I'd say, a sipping moonshine, like one I could sit around and sip.
And maybe do a podcast? That's possible.
Yeah, maybe do a podcast. No, this is surprisingly good, honestly.
It really throws people, and I love starting here because it sets the bar. It's like, it's the whole tone, right? I've come in with, we're tasting with 6 products tonight.
Yep.
The first thing, it's like I brought a knife to a gunfight. You know? And one sip in, you're like, okay, wow, that bar's pretty high.
Yeah, if you're doing that with moonshine, what are you doing with bourbon and everything else?
No joke.
So what are you thinking, Brandon? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, honestly, this is, you know, you typically for me, and maybe some other folks too, but you see any distilleries that try to put out like just the 100% moonshine white dog. Like, for me, I'm always turned off by it because I just look the other way, because, you know, I always comes to mind is just the gimmicky stuff, you know, like you get down in somewhere in Tennessee. I won't mention any names, but 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 with this is why I'm surprisingly shocked. Like, this is really good. Like, I could definitely pour this over a glass, some rocks, or just drink it neat, and then just, have a good time, talking about bourbon over a podcast.
So I'll tell you a couple things that make this a little bit different. Obviously, I mentioned the mash bill already. It's 50% corn, 50% cane sugar. So this isn't traditionally a white dog because it's not. This isn't bourbon, right? This isn't whiskey, and those two ingredients really complement each other really well. I think this is what's giving you that faux agave sort of sweetness. Getting the corn vegetal sweetness going on, plus it's been followed up by that sugar cane, which the yeast incidentally love and adore. It makes, like the viscosity on it, the heat on it, you get a little bit of heat, but it stays right here. Like, it's a good Kentucky hug. There's no rot gut whatsoever. And it just tastes like good, clean spirits.
Yeah, I mean, I've completely, my little dream is gone. And that doesn't really ever happen on a moonshine or kind of that first initial pour. And it's cool to see that combo mash bill, and also you're coming in at 100 proof too. Like, you're not, kind of like Brandon was saying, those boutique-y, kind of things that people will do and make it 60, 70 proof, have it there to sell. Yeah, but I mean, this is like you said, this is solid. This is nice.
It is really good. Like, again, like you mentioned, the mash bill, it's not that, that traditional white dog, or, it just, I don't know, it's very flavorful, very smooth. Like, I'm well done. Like, I'm legitimately, surprised.
And so all of this that you're tasting, this was actually distilled on AJ's handmade square pot still. And there's a fascinating story about that we might get into over time, just talking about the distillery in general. But I always tell people that you can write craft on anything. It really doesn't get much more craft than this. 100-year-old recipe, handmade still. This is a sour mash process. All of the fermentation's done in small, like 53-gallon barrels, and it really speaks for itself.
Well, and you talk about the man that created this recipe, Casey Jones, and who the distillery is named after. He's a bit of a legend. Has a great tale behind him. Can you talk a little bit about the man that all this is named after, the recipe comes from?
Yeah. So, I do think we have one little spot here where we can boast a bit, and it's, I think, well-deserved. Casey's not a story, he's a legend, and to the point you can actually go into ChatGPT and ask Chat, what do you know about Casey Jones Distillery, or Casey Jones, excuse me. It'll tell you a little bit of history about him. So Casey was a still maker during Prohibition, which I mentioned earlier. He was a coffin builder by trade, and he was challenged as a young man to make still. So his trade inspired the design. The guy was he's illiterate. He couldn't read or write, but he was just an engineering savant, and he could work with his hands. And so he built a square pot still. The stills were designed to fit in the back of Model A pickup trucks for very obvious reasons. And he also created a double-walled condenser at a time when everybody was using a worm in a barrel. So his stills were super efficient at both heating evenly, heating quickly, and then condensing that vapor down into alcohol at a very rapid rate. The stills actually were designed to also come apart. So if you ever see our little brochure, go to our website and see a picture of it, or hopefully come to the distillery and see it in person, it actually breaks into three pieces: the still itself, the line arm, and the condenser, and they all have handles on them. So, Brandon and I are feeling fancy, we're going to go make some moonshine. Well, he and I can pick up the still, you can throw the line arm on your back, I got the condenser on mine, and we're off in the woods making moonshine like that.
Nice.
Of course.
We should try that.
Oh, yeah, I'm down. I'm down. Maybe after a few more of these, right?
Yeah, 100, yep.
So his blessing was actually also his curse, because as you can imagine, if you were a revenuer and you came across a square pot still and Western Kentucky. It didn't exactly need to have Sherlock Holmes next to you to figure out who made it. Elementary, my dear Watson, right?
Yep.
So he gets busted for still making twice, moonshining twice, and gets put into Mill Point Penitentiary. And you guys might know the nickname for that place. It used to be called Moonshiner's U. Yeah.
I did not know that, but I know it's in West Virginia, right?
Yes, yeah. So he gets out the second time, and the feds actually threaten him with a life sentence if he gets caught again. Lo and behold, years afterwards, moonshining is not illegal anymore, and the area west of the distillery, the land between the lakes area, there's a visitor center that's erected, and the federal government, actually the forestry department, reaches out to Casey because moonshining was such a big part of the heritage there, and asks if he'll make a still. So if you follow that, the same federal government that did the imprisonment thing and the, hey, if we catch you again, you're busted forever. Hey, would you make us one of these, please? Pretty please? I can't imagine how that conversation went, but he did eventually capitulate and actually made a still that went into the visitor center for years and years and years and years. Then
Wow.
the visitor center gets remodeled, and the still just disappears.
Wow.
Peg and AJ, who frequent that route many times, notice that it's gone. And, this is like AJ's only link to his grandfather, and obviously his grandfather's heritage. And so they kind of panic, like, what's going on with still? Where'd it go? So Peg and AJ start doing research, calling around and figuring out what happened to it, find out that it's in a storage facility there on site, and then they petition basically the head of the forestry department to give them the still. And they prove through documentation that it actually is AJ's grandfather, and decide to yield it over to the two of them, which is, another crazy story, because when does the government ever give anything back, right?
Right. No joke.
So they went and grabbed the still. It's normally a 45-minute drive. I understand that AJ and Peg made it in like 15. Of course, they come back to what was then their homestead out on Woody Lane, where the distillery is today. And AJ has this thing for about, from what I've been told, 10 minutes, and he's got it up and running again, like instantly. Like it's the Jones gene. Like it's just what he does, right? I mean, what would you do, right? Here's your grandfather's only legally made still, maybe the only federally commissioned still ever.
Yeah.
So he gets it operational, and the story goes something like Peg had seen one too many cars leaving at night from their garage, and comes down and gives a certain master distiller an ultimatum. You either get a DSP or we're shutting this thing down. And he opted for the DSP, and thus Casey Jones Distillery was born.
Huh. That's crazy.
I love that.
That's a cool story.
Well, because you hear about all these brands that kind of come up with something, or they've revived, a legacy of some sort. But no, this is a true story of, family generations, and then to be able to see AJ make something that, his great grandfather had made is pretty impressive. And since we got so many to go to, let's just hop into that second one.
Oh yeah.
Where we'll hit the bourbon, and then we'll follow up with some stuff. This is your Blue Label, I believe. I believe Brandon's got this bottle as well.
Right, double barrel cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 105 proof, the Blue Label. Tell us a little bit about this bad boy.
So what you have in your drams at this moment is exactly what you just drank, the 50 corn, 50 cane. However, we've done something that no other distillery in the world does. We've actually twice barrel aged that distillate. So 3 years in a new Kelvin Cooperage ultra premium cask, heavy char, medium toast, just like you would bourbon. We'll take that distillate after it's aged for up to 3 years, and then we'll dump it into one of our used bourbon barrel casks for another year of finishing. And so what we've created, and again, no one else does this, a double barrel aged corn and cane distillate. We call it double barrel cut. Now, you guys know, what does corn distillate make? If I distill corn, what does it make? It makes whiskey, corn whiskey, right?
Yeah.
If I distill cane, what does it make?
usually rum.
Rum, right? So this is like a marriage of corn whiskey and rum at the same time. And buddy, I'm here for it.
Y'all are blowing my mind with
I know.
everything. I mean, we're only on pour 2.
I know.
Is there going to be anything left of me by the end?
Yeah. That was really good.
Oh yeah.
So you get that. You can taste that kind of marriage between the whiskey, rum. No, I'm with John. You're kind of, and it's good.
Told you I'd bring the heat.
You did.
You weren't kidding.
You weren't lying. This is
And
really
it's got
good.
that, and like you said, with the moonshine, that sweetness on there, you get that with that kind of that rum distillate. Oh man, I can't wait to taste it now.
So what's wild is obviously everything we do is ultra small batch. So we're talking like the double barrel cut is honestly single barrel. Like we don't batch this at all, right? But each barrel is going to be a little bit different. So the one that I'm tasting right here that I have at the house, this is a 103.4 proof. And you guys said you had a
105.3.
okay.
Yep.
So on this one, for me, I'm getting much more cinnamon notes than I normally get. And there's not a very strong, but it's light semi-sweet cocoa at the finish. It still has that playfulness between like the bright corn sweetness and that molasses sweetness that you get from a rum. But a lot of batches, it's the inverse. It's like you get a little bit of cinnamon, but man, that finish is like this semi-sweet cocoa nibs, just phenomenal dessert note.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I think you've left Brandon speechless, which is a hard thing to do on anything.
I'm good. Yeah. That's
Because no, this is wild. It's super smooth. Like it's unlike anything I've ever had before. To be honest, because like you said, you're the only one doing it. So clearly, it's the only one I've ever had.
Yeah, no joke. So
I'll give you a little insider baseball stuff. So I mentioned that this was finished in one of our used bourbon casks.
Right.
And that's our high rye bourbon, which will be the last thing we actually taste. We have actually finished the 3-year version of this, right? 3 years in the new barrel, then pouring it into a used barrel. We finished this in an elderberry wine cask. We've finished it in honey cask, maple casks. We've done it in a rye cask. We've done it in one of our wheat casks, and it's a chameleon. It's like the first 3-year aging, all the corn whiskey notes dominate. Caramel, butterscotch, vanilla, those classic sweet notes from a good corn whiskey. But then whenever you put it into finishing, it takes on this whole new transformation. And the high rye bourbon that we finished this in, it ends up bringing out these rum notes. It's just wild. The wheat bourbon cask finish that we've done in this, it's like it just brings in all these honey notes. It just completely transforms.
yeah. So how did you get? So tell us a little bit about your backstory. How did you get into the spirits industry?
Yeah. So my involvement with Peg and AJ started probably 4.5 years ago now.
Okay.
I used to teach at WKU. Taught digital marketing, social media, digital advertising, etc. And one of my former students actually graduated, started a marketing consulting firm. I was doing consulting on the side as well, and we ended up working on a project together. So we ended up merging our companies. And then a few years later, we decided to start a bourbon and beer festival in Bowling Green, the Bourbon and Brew Fest, which I don't know if you've heard about. Yeah. So Peg and AJ, so with the 3rd year of us running that event, Peg and AJ were finishing up a marketing contract with a firm in Nashville called Lewis Communications, who incidentally is actually redoing the KDA stuff right now, from what I understand. Which is really interesting, the Kentucky Bourbon Trail stuff right now. So really excited to see what comes of that. But they'd finished up that contract, and they were looking for somebody local to do some of their marketing work. And ended up finding us through the Brewfest. And so they're originally a client of mine for a couple of years. And then, of course, COVID hit. I ended up selling the Bourbon and Brew Fest with my business partners literally the year COVID hit, March of 2020, right before it really broke out, which was fortunate for us and probably fortunate for the event because the Hot Rods were able to take that on and carry that festival and keep it running. And it's wildly successful now, so they've done a killer job with that.
No.
But when I literally took the first payment for it, and my wife and I flew off into Europe, and then we're in Europe and we're on our way back and COVID's hitting, right? So it's like the day before we came back, I got a call from Peg and AJ. You got to remember when COVID first broke out, all the non-essential businesses had to close. So I get a call from Peg. She's like, look, we got to close shop. We're not an essential business. We can't make this work. We got to figure out something else, at least temporarily, until this kind of blows over. And so my wife and I, we fly out. We literally land. The next day, they close all international travel. So like skin of my teeth kind of thing, right? I get home, and I get a very different call from Peg. She says, look, we've hooked up with these folks down in Atlanta, Georgia, called Froggy's Fog, and the Hopkinsville ethanol plant. We can make sanitizer. Can you help us get it online? Well, as it turns out, yes. So I think within 48 hours, I had full e-commerce, order fulfillment, picking tickets, Google ads, Facebook ads, everything. Like 48 hours live taking orders. And it really, really took off. We ended up being probably the top 2 or 3 distilleries nationwide selling hand sanitizer. And we sold a ton, we gave away a ton, we took really good care of people, and that was like a really seminal moment for the distillery because it kind of put us on everybody's, made everybody sort of aware of the brand that we interfaced with and how we treated them, which was fantastic. And so, that ran for about a year and a half, and then of course all the big suppliers came online and demand was sated. Everybody was back operational producing sanitizer again, and demand waned for it. And sort of after that finished, I had approached Peg and AJ about partnering. The two of them are in their mid to late 60s, and their families otherwise engaged, doing other things, had their own careers, and didn't really have anybody to come in and help take over the legacy. So we worked that out together, and been a partner ever since.
Not a bad gig. I mean, that's a hell of a transition. I mean, you're checking. Things just happen for a reason, and you got to be like, I could have been stuck in Europe this whole time.
Yeah, it was this close. It was this close. We saw pictures of people who did get stuck. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's crazy. That's awesome. That's such a cool story, though. I mean, as Dick said, COVID, of course, it changed everything. It changed a lot of things for a lot of people. But you made it out by the skin of your teeth, got back to the States, and then, man, who knew?
Yeah, here we are.
It's awesome.
We're making bourbon.
And I was gonna say, and we're having drinks on a podcast, and as we talk about this helping put Casey Jones on the map with everything. I'm gonna just go ahead and say let's go to the third one.
Yeah.
Which is this our first true bourbon? Is that what we're getting into now?
We're going to go to Kentucky's native, which is of course Bourbon. It sounds very fancy if you drop the N. Pinkies out, guys.
Pinkies up.
So this is our what we call white label or mash bill 1. This is one of AJ's big contributions to the world of bourbon, as this is probably the highest corn bourbon mash bill you will have ever had. It is 96% yellow dent corn, 3% rye, and only 1% malted barley.
And you smell that corn on the nose.
Yep.
So the cask that you guys have, can you tell me the year?
You got the bottle, Brandon. What do we got on that white label?
All right, so this one is 90 proof, and it's 2 years.
2 years on the money?
Yeah, well, 2.1 is what it says. 2.10 is the exact number written on the bottle.
So most of our barrels now of this product are 3 and 4 years old. We have some that are 5 and a very, very few number that are 6. Now, what's really interesting, if you get a chance to try this versus the single barrels we typically will do older. And it's fascinating because you can see the maturation taking effect. The small batch at 90 proof this is not a complex bourbon. It's not attempting to be. It's obviously going to be a sweeter bourbon. Low rye, low pepper, low heat, low coriander. This is more the brown sugar notes that you would expect from a good sweet bourbon. 90 proof, super easy on the palate.
Yeah.
You
definitely get the sweetness, smooth, but you also get that lighter. You get the lighter notes of the 90 proof coming through, but I can't complain.
No, it's another one that what I was going in with my expectation and what came to my taste buds are two totally different things, and that's a testament to what AJ and everyone's been able to do there, because I was expecting something totally different, and it's super sweet. You get those random notes of like chocolate at the end. So why did he want to do the 96% corn?
It was just his innovation. He wanted to do something. He wanted to create, I think, a very, and I tell this to people all the time. I think the white label, particularly the small batch, the younger ones, it's a great bourbon for bourbon curious. New to the category, not sure where to start. Maybe you're afraid of it being hot or hitting the palate wrong. This is not going to do that. This is going to be super easy on your palate.
Yep.
Even in the worst case scenario, you can throw a little bit of ice on it and tone it down even more if you want to get into bourbon, but you're not sure how to. This is a great way to do that. And I don't know if your particular bottle has this or not. The one that I have doesn't either. But we're doing full transparency. We're putting the mash bills right on the bottles. We're putting the barrel notes on the bottles. We're putting tasting notes on the bottles. We're trying to make it easy for people to get into what has become a very complicated category of spirits, to say the least. And what's fascinating about it, I talked about the single barrels earlier. To me, this is like green fruit, toasted brown sugar for days. Super easy, not complex, not trying to be. The single barrels, on the other hand, where that wood is really starting to influence and take over the distillate. Oh my God. So the single barrels you start to get these sassafras notes and cream soda notes, and just, again, here for all of that.
No, it's really cool to see, and I love kind of his approach to it all. And like I said, thinking of like a corn whiskey, this is not what you think of. Like, even if you're someone that has had a good variety of bourbons, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised by this one because of just, I don't know, like I said, it's very, I can't put my finger on it, but it's very different. Again, I think I've said this a few times, it's just different in a good way and not in a bad way.
Well, the thing that you run into with high corn mash bills, particularly when they're useful like this particular bottle is, I've run into is they can have a dusty corn flavor to them. And it's so off-putting. And to my palate, my nose, I don't find an ounce of that here at all. The quality's still there, yeah.
Brandon, you're quiet over there.
I don't know. I'm just, I'm enjoying it. Like you said, it's different. It is just something. It's hard to, it's completely different from what I thought it was going to be going in, and which is good. It's fantastic. I think it's something different, and I like the approach. I like the approach of, like John asked the question of why such the high corn? Why do the corn and the sugar mix with that mash bill? It's different, but it's awesome in a good way.
Well, and some of the other things that are missing, you don't have any of that metallic acid flavor from young bourbon. It's not there at all. It's the quality's still there. And this is, again, you guys said yours is 2.1. That's one of the youngest
Yeah.
batches of stuff that we have in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I can see why maybe, AJ had people coming to the garage, and I can see that after just the three. And obviously I know his wife was like, I don't need to pull in what your family has done and end up in prison
Right,
potentially.
right.
But obviously it takes a lot to then put the distillery on. So what was it like for him to finally take the leap and put it all in? Like, I mean, obviously it's one thing to say you're going to do it, it's another to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to tackle this question, but I guess we'll stick with like the history part of it. I mean, so here he is with his grandfather's only legally made still, and again, like I said, probably the only federally commissioned still that has ever been, in existence. And he's got this thing up and running, and he's making product off of it. And I don't know the order of ops, if it was the ultimatum first or it was the tinkering first, but he used that still and as a model, and he actually made his own with his bare hands, a metal crimping tools, an old soldering iron, and literally makes his own handmade 140-gallon square pot still that we used for 8 years. The double
Wow.
barrel cut that you tasted, distilled on that handmade square pot still. Again, you can write craft on anything. You
Yeah.
write it on anything.
Yeah.
That's craft. Period.
I mean, you could write handmade on this, like
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
I mean, short of sowing the grain and reading the plow himself, like it's, I mean, it's from the actual production side of it. It just doesn't get any more real than that. It really doesn't.
No.
And then, do you have? And it's true that one still is now on display at the distillery, right? The original
Yeah.
one that's out. It's been pulled off of the line, or is it still on the line?
So his grandfather's still, it actually sits above our bar, which is fascinating. I mean, you see it when you do the tour. That we'll talk to you about, like, we'll tell you a little bit about the history of it whenever you do the tour, which is really fascinating. And then the original portion of was the garage, his garage at the time, AJ's garage at the time. That's where his still actually sits. And like I said, we used it for 8 years. When I came on, part of the partnership, when I came on, was that we wanted to focus on outside sales and distribution, which the distillery really hadn't done much of yet at the time, and then also some vertical integration, getting in some new equipment, et cetera, and being able to operate at a bigger scale. And so March of 23, we actually retired AJ's original handmade square pot still and transitioned to 2 stills. So we have now a beautiful custom-made 1,000-gallon hybrid pot with an offset 4-plate column condenser, defumator, and condenser to the right of that. Traditional line arms, beautiful piece of equipment made by Specific Mechanical. And then to the right of that, we actually had it was a really cool story we can get into at some other point in time, but we actually had Specific Mechanical custom build for us a 200-gallon square pot industrial grade still called the Grandfather to pay homage to Casey. And so it's the only industrial square pot still in existence.
Were they confused when you asked that when they were like, "Hey, can you make this?" Were they like, "Wait, what?"
They were giddy as school children. Well, you got to think about it. I mean, they've been in the brewing scene for years and years and years, and distilling scene for a long time as well. They've made tons of round vessels, fermenters, cookers, pot stills, column stills, you name it. Done this a billion times, It's an exaggeration, but done it many, 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 many times. And so when we approached them about this project, they were just giddy. I mean, like school kids, seriously. Got super excited about it and actually rearranged their production schedule to make this happen for us in a manner that allowed us to actually show it, or them to show it at ADI in St. Louis. And it's a really cool story, but yeah, they made it happen.
That's amazing. Yeah. Now,
So cool.
Now, like I said, we're only halfway through the expressions here, so I'm really excited about for number 4 because and it's funny because you can ask Brandon. When we first started doing this, wheated bourbons were not close to being my thing, and now like we were doing a pick who got the bottles, and I was like, I got the red label because I wanted the wheated bourbon. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you are holding what is, bar none, our most popular product by far. This is the red label. This is mash bill 3. We've skipped mash bill 2. We'll come back to it. This is I call this a double unicorn, right? So as you said, wheated bourbons, they're certainly more popular than they were in the past, but they're still relatively rare in the cadre or the lineup of bourbon mash bills. So this is both a wheated bourbon, but it's also a 4-grain wheated bourbon, which is rather unique in the grand scheme of things, as you might imagine. So we're using 2 types of corn in this particular bourbon. This is 26, I know this is odd, 26.5% bloody butcher corn, which if you've ever been to a craft store at any time during the fall and you've seen those lovely blood red ears of corn, that is exactly what this is. Jephthah Creed probably really put bloody butcher corn on the map. Mad props to them. Great distillery, great folks. But they have a lot of mash bills with bloody butcher corn in them that they actually grow on site. We're using that same grain here, 26.5%, like I said. The same amount yellow dent, 35 wheat, which is a lot of wheat for a wheated bourbon, and 12% malted barley, which is a lot of malted barley for a bourbon. So we have a really, really unique mash bill. Bloody butcher corn is so interesting. Yellow dent, as you know, is the most popular corn that you find in bourbon mash bills, and it creates that bright sweetness, right? It's like the vanillas and the interfacing with the tannins to make the caramels. Like, that's your yellow corn notes for sure. Bloody butcher is like a port wine versus sangria effect. Whereas yellow dent's your sangria, bloody butcher is like your port wine. It's sweet, but it's like a mulled, earthy, sweetness to it. It's like an adult corn. I don't know how to describe it. There's more going on. It's much more complex. It's really interesting. But you got to be careful with it because you can go too far with it, and it can create these really sort of musty notes that are not particularly enjoyable to your palate at all. We've got it well balanced here and well under control. How it manifests in this particular distillate, to my palate, it creates honey and herbal sweet tea.
Interesting.
Oh, I just want to dive into that one. No, I'm here.
This is. Yep, I made the right choice, Brandon. I made the right choice.
You did. This is really good, and I can see why it's probably your biggest one, your most popular one. Just because I feel like a lot of folks in the state are big fans of wheated bourbon. But this is, you get that subtle, you get that sweetness. It's very smooth, not too hot. 95 to 100 proof is right there in that sweet spot. But I think ours is 95 proof.
Yep.
Like it's, at first you sometimes, like, if wheated bourbon's not done, if it's not well done, you get that kind of grassy, like, taste, and this is
if you know, you know.
Yes.
It's so off-putting.
It is.
You're mowing the lawn and you're eating the clippings. It's like it's so bad.
It is. It's not like
it's not my palate, man. I can't do it.
No, I can't either. It's like I've even had some where I described as it's just fresh cut hay rotting in the field.
Oh, dude.
It's like you can't. But if you do it right, like, it's very smooth. You get the sweetness. You get the that caramel and from the corn, and that's, I don't know, man. This is good.
So I don't know your palates, but like I know you have had Louisiana sweet tea that was made at home, that wasn't sweetened enough.
Yep.
And it's like the middle. It's like that cool space in your tongue, right behind where the sweet taste buds are, and to the middle of the sour, like the bitter. It's like right there. I mean, that's what this is. It's just wild, and it's bourbon, man.
It is. It is wild. You're exactly right. And like,
Well, and this is
way
like
that
the
you guys
first
done it.
one, like the first three, I was like expecting one thing, got something totally different. And then when you kind of led on this one and you're like, this is your top seller, I was like, okay, this is just what I was hoping for, but better in a sense. This is just a fantastic, and I love the 4 grain. I think what I'm learning about AJ is that he's willing to try different things to get those cool and unique flavors. And I mean, it's fascinating what he's been able to do in the recipe shop.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, a little bit of this is going to sound. I do mean this. So it's the three of us that own the distillery, and we just wrapped up this $2 million expansion, putting in this new equipment and rick house and fermenters, cookers, the whole thing. We started that process when the interest rates were down here somewhere, and locked that construction loan in at a nice, almost double digit space right up. It's perfect timing, really.
Yeah.
So, it's just three of us. We've got a great team, and everybody is just doing their damnedest to make everything the best it possibly can be. And one of the things I think we really believe in is you don't aim to do something that's not fit to be done.
Yeah.
And I hope the spirits speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, and I was gonna say, I mean, I guess like to follow up on that, like, why does AJ love to kind of have that 50-50 moonshine, the barrel cut that's aged, the high corn? You hear 95.5 rye, 96.4 rye. You don't hear 96, 3-in-1 corn. And then a 4-grain wheat. Like, why does he have that kind of mindset on everything?
Well, I mean, it's we talk about this a lot, and just oh my God, there's so much 75-21-4 on the market, and it just all has different labels, and it all came from the same place. And I mad props to companies who are able to market and do well in that space. I mean, it's impressive. It really is. It's just not us, and it's never going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might just sip for a little bit. Brandon, this is your show now. Yep, sorry.
You want to come down? We'll get you some single barrel of this, and you prepare to have a clean pair of socks.
Don't tempt us with a good time. We'll be there.
Tell everybody all the time, I got to warn you, if you do visit, in all seriousness, we will treat you like family, but the family you like.
Oh yes, 100%. That's the best. That's the best type of family.
It matters.
It does. It does. And you talk about that expansion, where using that small, still that it was handmade for the most part. I mean, that's great and all, but you're probably not putting maybe a barrel a day away, if that.
Oh yeah. It was.
So being able to have that expansion, how important is that for y'all? As you move forward, because I'm guessing you want to have a future. That's probably part of it.
Oh man, we could do a whole separate, kid you not, deep dive podcast on this piece of the show in general. And this is the kind of stuff I geek out over this. Just the economics of it all, cost to make barrels, the cost required to carry the capital to age the barrels, how you determine what to put up and age. It's fascinating. I mean, for us, we felt like there was kind of a fork in the road in the early 2000s. I should say the early in 2020. I guess we really started having these very serious conversations about this. Sorry, I mean to misspeak there, but that you've got a lot of these NPDs, non-producing distilleries, and some of them are doing fantastic things. I mean, Penelope is just such a great example of that. What a huge, just incredible Cinderella story, honestly, to be taking MGP and turn around and being bought by basically their source of spirits MGP, like it was 6 years or something like that. It's just wild. Like it's just you can't even. It doesn't exist in any other industry. But for a lot of NPDs, like it's a real struggle. You know, it's like how. And there are so many companies doing a good job of it. You know, like Barrel Craft Spirits is doing a fantastic job of it. They're relying on other producers to be able to make their end product. And there's trade-offs there. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to really parse that out. I think for us, it was we believe in what we're doing. We're crazy enough to think that it might be successful. We're foolish enough to spend basically all of the money that we have and then some on it, and stupid enough to think we can pay it down and make it happen and produce a good product that people like. And I don't think there's any other option. It's like we're going to do it. Yeah.
That's
Well, you're doing it
That's
well.
what it's about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta have the belief that it's going to work and not let it fail. And you guys are doing things differently, which is good. Like you said, there's a million other ones on the shelf that's doing it the exact same way.
Yeah.
And I mean, John can tell you we like things a little different. So.
Well, and I love the transparency aspect. I know we got kind of some sample bottles, you know, the 375s, and you know, but it's great to hear the transparency, because we talk about that a lot. Like, you know, how are we really ever going to know what we like if it's not somewhat on there? The mash bills. I mean, that's why I've learned I'm a high rye guy. I also love just rye in general. Like we did, if it's not on there, it's kind of hard for me to know which bottles I want to give a try to, and I love what y'all are doing, and hearing that makes us happy, because we complain about that a good little bit.
Well, it's just honestly, John, it's such a joke. I mean, come on, like the mash bill, that's not secret information. Who gives a rat's rear end? It's like, do you know how many types of malted barley there are out there?
I don't even want to know.
It's like, great, I've given you the proportions of the things that I'm generally using, but it's not actually really the things, it's the category of the things, because it turns out there's lots of different types of corn. I know most people only use yellow dent, but there's lots of different types of wheat. Yeah, it's mostly red soft winter wheat, but malted barley and rye, I mean, come on. I mean, it's just malted barley. There's tons of different types of malted barley. That doesn't even get into like which yeast did you actually use, right? I mean, what's your cook process? Like, where are you making your cuts? Are you pot distilled or column distilled? Are you aging in traditional bilge bunged barrels, or are you doing top bunged? I mean, are you using palletized barrels, or are you doing traditional rigs? It's just such a bumper sticker version of it. And so many companies are like, I don't know, I don't want to give them that information. Like, what information? There's nothing to it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you're still just giving, you know, I know what's in it. You know, it's the burger.
Yeah.
Like, there's a million different ways you can make a burger, but, you know, it's wild. And as we go to our fifth pour, Brandon, you want to put that bad boy up? Because if folks don't know, maybe they were blinded when they looked up into the sun. There was an eclipse recently, and it's the second one to kind of go where you guys are, hence the Total Eclipse bourbon that you guys just dropped again. 100 proof, 3 years. Tell us a little bit about this bad boy.
Yeah, so highly recommend a palate cleanse before we go into this, because this is going to be a very complex and nuanced bourbon, and for its age, it is really going to take you for a spin. We were 3 miles from the absolute epicenter of the 2017 eclipse that crossed from the west coast to the east coast. Literally 3 miles from the distillery was the best place to see the eclipse in 17. AJ actually trademarked Total Eclipse Moonshine and made this 100 proof of the corn and cane distillate, trademarked that, and made this for the 17 eclipse. Very, very popular. Probably, you know, introduced moonshine as an actual good category for many, many, many people in 17. Well, of course, in 24, there's another eclipse that came up through Texas and exited Buffalo, New York area, up through Maine, actually. It was way, way up there. And for that eclipse, we created a 4-grain Total Eclipse bourbon, also at 100 proof. And on the bottle, there's the little eclipse path right there that you can actually see, which is kind of cool. This is another 4-grain. So you're getting 2 4-grain bourbon expressions from one distillery. That almost never happens. The distillate here, 75% corn, 10 wheat, 10 rye, 5% malted barley. I'm really going for something that's like very balanced here. You know, wheat is your texture, it's your oat flavors, rye is a little bit of heat, and of course your corn's your sweetness, malted barley to round things out. This is a treasure for sipping bourbon, and I can tell you, I cannot wait to see where this ends up. 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. This is going to be phenomenal as it ages. One of the things that you'll get on the nose immediately that is just so, you just never experienced this, is citrus. It's almost like orange peel when you express an orange on an old fashioned, which is just so, it's just so wild to get that from a bourbon. I can't think of any other bourbon that's citrus notes up front. And then it rounds into this like lovely, like light butterscotchy kind of territory, but it's not heavy. It's like really effervescent, really, really, really light. And I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah. I'm sitting here trying to, wrap my mind around this because, like, I smelled it the first 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if that was a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
But now when I taste it, it's like, it's a roller coaster, like, of good. Like, it's 100 proof, but you get a little bit of the spice. You get the heat of the bourbon up front, then it rounds out, and it comes down this roller coaster of the sweet. Man, it is. You're right. You're 1,000% right, because when you said it, it immediately hit my mind too. That if that thing goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years,
oh, it's gonna get stupid.
Oh, it should get stupid, because I'm really excited to see that too, because that would be, because if it's got this much complexity to it right now.
Oh, right. Oh.
Yeah, I'm just confused. Like, I thought, you see, my brain, I know we're recording on a Monday, so I should be refreshed, ready to go, had a good night's sleep, easy day at work for the most part. But it's, especially on the nose, like when I nosed it, I was like, that's different, especially coming off of the first 4 that we did. Like, you're not kidding. It's
like anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the senses were like heightened, like, oh, what are we getting into? And it was way more refreshing of a pour than I ever expected off of that nose. And for 3 years, like, I don't think, again, like how I said on the moonshine, if you blinded someone, there's no way they would assume that's a regular moonshine. I don't think if you blinded someone, I've talked to some people like Chattanooga and some other places, and they pulled stuff out of a barrel real young, and people are giving like 6, 7 year statements way past. I feel like they do that on this because it's very complex for a very young bourbon, and I'm not just saying that to say that. Like, it's truly got some. Yeah, that's. AJ and y'all are doing some good things down there, man.
I'm going to completely rude here. Just to be named in the same sentence as Chattanooga, that just makes my heart happy, because those guys are, those folks are absolutely killing it. They're doing such a good job with their product. Yep. They're so impressive.
Brandon, am I wrong? Like, you wouldn't have thought that's a 3 year.
No. And to be honest, though, just because I have the bottle in front of me and it says 3 years on it, when I first nosed it, the first 4 or 5 times, I was like, all right, well, maybe this one's not going to be for me, because I was like, I couldn't tell if the nose was good, if it was funky, if it was, and I was like, all right, maybe not. And then I tasted it, and I was like, holy shit. Like,
it's wild as it opens up, like that citrus kind of fades a bit, and it gets into this nutty territory.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the most predominant on the nose and palate afterwards. And to me, and again, I don't know if you guys get this, but the finish, it took me so long to like nail. Of course, this is going to change as it continues to age, but I get this very distinct. It's not sweet pecan, but just pecan nut finish.
I can see that.
I can see that.
Wow.
It is a roller coaster, and you mentioned barrel earlier. We're big barrel fans. Love Chattanooga, and like for what y'all are doing, you're giving a little bit of a roller coaster, like in a good, like Brandon said, in a good way, especially on this one. Like the weeded, to me, I can see why that's like a top seller, because that is. It may not be the typical number one heater that like Brandon likes to say, but it's just really good. Like it's not a crazy ride, but it's just a flavorful ride. This one's got some movement to it, and it does take you back to like the barrels and some of the other ones of just unique things that you guys are able to pull out of 4 grains.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see where this one goes, honestly. I really am.
Yeah, I think
as
it's
I've said,
really going to mature very nicely, actually.
Yeah.
I keep finishing my pours, so we're just going to go to number 6 because I just finished this one. I'm kind of excited for this one after you. Huh?
There's somebody at the door. Can you guys pour? I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it. See, he's a popular man. Very, very popular.
Very. All right. You got the bottle on this one.
Oh, I forgot. Well, we've had 5 pours. I tend to forget things after 2 or 3. So.
I'm with you.
So, as Cody is dealing with his, at the door, we'll pop this up, show you the bad boy bottle, the black label. Oh, you're good. Well, I was just showing the bottle. I told Brandon, I was like, we're 6 deep here. This is great. Black label, small batch, Kentucky straight bourbon. And what intrigued me was when you said high rye, because like I said, on these labels it doesn't really show.
Right.
375.
It does.
But it's coming in at Brandon and I's proof point that we kind of love, the 105 to 110. It's at 108, 3 years. So tell us a little bit about that black label.
So this mash bill is 80% corn, 16 rye, and 4 malted barley.
Okay.
So
that's not
we're
one
not in the
I've heard.
4 range. Sorry.
I said that's not a 80 16 4 that you hear very often.
No. It's very unique. We're actually I like saving this one for last, right? So like we say that this bourbon is for the bourbon serious. So I recommend a heavier pour for this if you can, as we finish out the night.
Yep.
This distillate is just, Brown-Forman, right?
Yep.
Brown-Forman has a very distinct common thread, and that thread is banana. It's there, right? When you think Woodford, it's like the candied banana. When you think Old Forester, it's like it's got that sort of banana theme to it. We're there, right? Right on the nose, you're going to get some of that same banana, but this is banana nut bread. Hands down, day after day, Grandma's just made a fantastic batch of banana nut bread. And we love Grandma.
Yep. And I was
gonna say you do love your family, so I'm down for it.
So
Yeah,
this is our small batch at 108 proof. Not messing around at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna shut this. I'm gonna open these, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, I love the nose. The nose is magnificent. As much as the Total Eclipse was kind of weird coming off the other 4, this nose is magnificent.
Yeah, and I think you were definitely spot on when it comes to fresh baked banana nut bread on the nose. And then it's so, most people 108, will be overpowering for them, but from John and I, it's not. It's kind of right in our sweet spot. But it actually drinks, to me, it drinks more closer to 100 proof than it does 110 proof for me. Which, if everybody knows that there's a big difference between 100 and 110.
Oh yeah.
So with this, you get that sweetness, you get the spice. I get spice anyway, and then I think it finishes on the back end of the nuttiness. On the back end a little bit. It almost kind of like that buttery feel, just like it just come out of a fresh bread pan out of the oven.
Well, if Grandma was making it, I guarantee you she put a stick of butter in there.
Need to get Grandma to put some of this in the banana nut bread.
Can you imagine like a rum, like a version of a rum cake? Maybe. Oh my God! Shut up and take my money.
Yep.
Well, and now I know why the family there at Casey Jones gets along so well. You're just boozing up everything, and it's magnificent. We're just happy.
No. World go round.
But no, this is
that's good.
And again, to earlier points of the 50/50 moonshine, the barrel cut, just everything is so unique, and you can tell it's true recipes. Is AJ a good cook? Because I feel like he would be a solid cook. Because if he's doing all this with these recipes, I hope he's able to cook in the kitchen too. Because he's coming up with some cool things.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so I gotta, I know we've talked a lot about the pours, but you guys are down in Western Kentucky. Everyone hears about Louisville, Bardstown, maybe Central Kentucky when it comes to bourbon. What's it like being part of Western Kentucky and being able to showcase that part of the state and what y'all are able to make?
It feels like you're a great explorer and you're pioneering a whole new territory. And I have this funny thought of doing an ad campaign, and we might get with the great folks in Western Kentucky to do this at some point in time. So you heard it here first. I haven't talked to anybody about this. I haven't talked to nobody about this. It's just like me and my wife.
See, six pours in, we got Cody feeling good.
It's always a good day, man. Always feeling good. I'm talking to some great folks, and just you bless us with some of your time. So it's always a good day. Yeah. But you guys remember Manifest Destiny and Head West and that whole the government trying to get people to move out west to claim their plots of land. And then there was that phrase how the West was won. I think we should do Head West, how bourbon was fun.
Ooh. Yeah, you better trademark that. Yep.
DM right here. First use case right here on the podcast. Yep. Done.
I'll send you the
paperwork?
the recording. Yeah. And,
all right. Okay.
And you talk about too the distillery where you've got the pot still up, or not the pot still, the square still up above the bar and things like that. You've been able to do the expansion. So if folks do get to go visit the distillery, because as I said, a lot of people will hit Bardstown, they'll hit Louisville, they'll hit kind of that corridor, but they need to head west, where bourbon was fun. And what are they going to get when they visit the distillery?
Head west, man.
Yeah.
I think I missed it. Was that a question at the end?
Visiting the distillery, what can they expect?
Oh, well, like I alluded to earlier, that you can expect to be treated like family, and I mean that. AJ and Peg and I, we have this insatiable desire to make sure that everybody who steps foot on that property has the best experience they possibly can have. AJ has almost obsessed with customer service in an almost Jobsian way. Like it's wild. Like things about it. What if we did X, Y, Z? Like it would make the experience a little bit better, and we should strive for that because it's really important. It's key. Like you're gonna have a fantastic time. We'll do everything within our human power to make sure that you walk away feeling like we depended on you being there, and that's because it's the truth. Like that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
We do the tours and tasting piece, and I know that a lot of people have probably been on several tours at this point, and everybody kind of knows what that shtick looks like, and it can be off-putting on another tour. I think the difference is we're not some label on a bottle. You're going to hear some real stories, some real history about a man who really kind of pioneered moonshining in that area of the country, which is really fascinating. And on the tasting side, man, you think this was a foray? I got 20 plus products on the tasting bar.
Wow.
And you're going to get 10 samples when you do a tasting.
And you only sent us 6? Come on.
I'm a jerk now. Oh, so sorry.
No, that just means we got to do part 2 and part 3.
Can you send us 10 more and let's do this on a Friday night?
Yeah, there we go. Everybody's amped up, ready to go. Friday night, baby. Yeah,
of
so
course.
in addition to the mash bill 1, the white label mash bill 2, which we're drinking now, and mash bill 3, the wheat, I've got single barrels of those, and sometimes I'll have 2 single barrels at the same time. And then in between the Total Eclipse Moonshine and the double barrel cut, well, there's the 3-year aged version that hasn't been double barrel finished. That's the single barrel cut. And then we've got bourbons that are finished in maple barrels or honey barrels, or there's a lot to taste. So we've got moonaritas, where we take the moonshine and we mix it with margarita mix to make moonaritas, and oh my God, they're just stupid good. They're dangerously good.
Wow.
So
Kentucky margarita.
We'll be heading your way pretty soon. I've got a pretty good feeling.
Please do.
We got a trip out there. There's several places, because you guys are in Hopkinsville. We're planning that because legit, when I say we've done this for a while, I mean not as long as some of the other guys, but this has been by far, coming from especially a craft guy. At the end of the day, you're a craft guy.
Oh, for sure,
based on the size of everything. Blowing my mind on what y'all have been able to put away. And I think another question that has come to me is thinking through this, bourbon takes time. You know what I mean? So the fact that you're able to put a lot of stuff away, I'm guessing that just had to be AJ and y'all going, hey, no, we're going to wait until it's right and we'll sit on it. It's not easy to do when you're trying to make money, because you guys didn't do a vodka, you didn't do other things that you see some of the other guys do, which there's nothing wrong. You got to pay the bills, I get that, but you guys just sat back, let these things age, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't get into outside markets until we had at least a 2-year-old, and so we've really ramped that up more and more now that we've had a 4-year-old. That wheat, those barrels are all 5 years old now, and so it's. I always tell people we didn't have a bunch of dad's money when we first started, so it's kind of a slow burn process for us. But we're trying to. It's like that. It's the old heritage brand story. It's like they started from nothing, man, and just absolutely nothing, and just clawed and scraped their way into being the legacy, heritage brands they are now, and it's. I think if you're aimed at the right thing, you might be able to actually do that same deal today, if you're just really careful about it. So that's what we're trying to do.
I love it. Brandon, what else you got here for us as we wind down?
I guess I know you mentioned some of the products throughout the show, but just what can you tell us that you got coming that's new, or something that's even more different than which we all know it's going to be different from what everybody else is doing, which is
Oh, yeah.
fantastic. Keep doing that. But just any kind of cool stuff that you can tell us that's coming. And if you can't, we obviously respect that.
No. So I will tell you that our first 5-year-old single barrel wheat, we're doing a bottle-year-old bourbon event May 25th for that. Those barrels all turned 5 years old early March. So we're really excited about that. We worked with, and you guys will be on this list now, obviously, but we worked with several creatives to help pick that. So some of them were able to come to the distillery, and others we ended up shipping samples. And everybody kind of weighed in, and we picked a barrel together, which is cool because,
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, if you're not on the inside of this, if you're on the outside, if you're adjacent to it, and you don't know, like this is a community. Yeah, I have not met a single person in this space that is, and I'm pardon me for my French, but that's an asshole. It's never happened. Everybody that I've talked to, everybody I've interfaced with, they're kind, they're committed, they're caring, they're conscientious, and just generally aimed at the good. And it's been such a treat interfacing with everybody. Other distilleries, the same way. Like everybody's just, we're kind of all in it to win it, and it's not this cutthroat thing that you might think it would be at all. So we've got that coming out May 25th. We're really excited about that. The in-between product, so unaged, twice barrel aged, the middle one that you can't see here. We, for the Eclipse, launched our oldest barrel of that. That barrel was 7 years old. And that product was just stupid good. Somewhere between the corn whiskey and the rum, starting to get the rum side, but more corn whiskey. Toasted marshmallow finish. Just salivate talking about it. And we just had 6 great products. Salivate. I've got 3 more barrels like that. And I'm going to be releasing those 3 barrels throughout the rest of the calendar year. The first one will be around July 4th.
Yeah.
Get your butt down to the distillery to get it, because it is, I think it might be one of the best things we've ever put in a bottle. Like it's so good. It's ridiculously good. Our 10-year anniversary will be in November. We're going to do our 6-year-old single barrel of this. And if the 5-year-old that we did last year has anything to do about it, that 6 year is going to be, well, I might take the next day off. I don't know. We'll see. We're drinking, and I might be doing the latter. So yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, we've got 3 barrels of wine finish that we're working on right now, but I haven't told a lot of people about that. But we'll see.
I like it. A good tease. A good tease. That is amazing to hear, and just for a craft guy in Western Kentucky, I know Western Kentucky is getting a lot more love nowadays with some other distilleries coming online and things like that. You got the calls out there and everything that have done a ton, but if you haven't, folks, legit, when I say this was a wild ride in the best way, like unexpected, pure unexpected. Taste buds loved every bit of it. I mean that. And Cody, this has been a blast, dude. I thank you, and we'll have to figure out a way to try those other bourbons and things you got there.
Oh man, let's see here. Like this single barrel wheat right here. Would that tickle your fancy? Or
yes, because I just went back for another bit of the wheat.
This double barrel cut that we finished in a wheat cask. I don't know. It's, whatever. It's cool.
Yeah, let's get
Brandon. We're gonna figure out when to go visit, and because there's so much that you guys are doing out there, and I love what you're doing because it is truly unique stuff, and we don't say this lightly. Brandon's a bad cop a lot of nights, and I don't think he's bad cop at all today, because this was fantastic.
No, this has been it's been a pleasure, and thank you again for coming on and letting us try these 6 fantastic products, because John's right. I mean, this has been an absolute, it's been a roller coaster in a good way. Like, you go to a theme park to have a good time. We just had a good time. And this is, I can't wait to get to the distillery, because as, not gonna lie, during a little bit through the show, I was kind of checking out the website, seeing what's going on there, and everything looks really cool. And again, I can't wait to come hang out with you guys, and I don't know, become that family, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man. We try to work like hell at it every day, man. That's the objective. And I can't. I know I said this at the beginning. I'll say it in the outset. Everybody on the outside, like, you see what Brandon and Jonathan are doing. It's like, oh, that looks like fun, and anybody could do that, and oh, it's so easy. It's just it could not be further from the truth. Like, you guys are putting your life on pause. I'm not trying to oversell this. I really mean this. Like, you have a schedule. It's a job. Like, you have to keep it. You production schedule and editing and setting up all the tech, and then reaching out and all the conversations that have to make this happen. But yeah, at the end of the day, you get to taste bourbon with it, and your success is based on your authenticity, and you will build a following based on you being a good proxy for, like, the truth, like your truth of what you actually enjoy, and
yeah.
It is an undertaking, to say the least. And so when I tell you all that I'm just very appreciative that you've chosen to spend time with us, I mean it. I really mean it. I know what it takes to do this stuff, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate it, man, and this is good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because a lot of people, you're right, they really don't understand. But we really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Shall we cheers to end it?
Oh, I'm finishing out with a double barrel cut, baby. What's up? Salute, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.